spaces I've been. All the places and spaces I've been. All the places and spaces I've been. All the places and spaces I've been.
Hi there, this is Leslie Stovall with Places and Spaces, where community and culture coalesce. And on this week's show, we've got breaking cat news. Cartoonist Georgia Dunn will be here to talk about her perfect comic. And then we'll welcome back Arif Khatib, founder of the Multi-Ethnic Sports Hall of Fame. And I'll be hosting their event on the 3rd. And they're putting on their annual Community Awards ceremony to honor those members of the legal community who help keep our community whole. This is KCSM Jazz 91.1. I'm Leslie Stovall. I want to welcome you to KCSM's Places and Spaces, where culture and community coalesce. And have we got a treat for you this morning? We have got Georgia Dunn, the cat cartoonist, and she's going to tell us what inspired her to create the beloved characters in Breaking Cat News. Hey there.
Hi, hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And we're all cat lovers here, even Rudy.
Yay. That's awesome.
So now tell us about Breaking Cat News.
Yeah, so Breaking Cat News is my newspaper comic strip. It's in newspapers around the country, and it also posts every day online at gocomics.com, which is my syndicate's website. The comic itself is about a news station run by cats, but
Wow.
but it's funnier than that sounds, is what I always try to say. So it's these cats who are reporting the news very straight-faced, and it's very important to them. But it's, heartbreaking headlines like the food bowl is empty and, it's 7:30 a.m., practically noon, and the people haven't woken up and
Oh,
things
yeah.
like that.
They don't
So
like that.
no. So yeah, and then there are like little stories and adventures that come along with different news broadcasts.
Well, you have a big audience because what? There are like how many millions of cat owners in the United
Oh
States?
yeah. Yeah, it's a big hit with cat owners, which is nice.
Because I have a cat myself, and it's challenging sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, how do you balance your creative process between writing and illustrating your comics and keeping your cat entertained?
Well, if it's the younger cats I have, they kind of like to chase the pen and chase the paintbrush, so the entertainment comes as I'm writing, but I have to
Excellent.
be careful and slowly, gently train them not to do that. But yeah, it's a wonderful process where I love writing, I love drawing. I would probably be doing that either way. And taking time throughout the day and throughout the weeks to sort of observe what my cats are doing and enjoy their presence and enjoy what they've got going on and just kind of make jokes as they're doing what they're doing. I always kind of tease that I don't have much writer's block, because if I'm really stumped for a headline, I can just sort of watch my cats for a moment and they're doing something.
They always are. They always.
Always are. It's always different.
Can you share a memorable moment when one of your cats influenced a storyline in your comics?
Oh gosh, yeah. A great one is to tell how the comic itself started,
Oh, please
which
share.
is yeah, which is when my cat Lupin, he knocked everything off of a shelf. The whole
Mhm.
shelf came crashing down, and he was sort of confused and a little bit riled up. And our my other cats, Elvis and Puck, came running to investigate. And cats they'll kind of always get into the middle of something if something happens. And that's sort of where I started doing the old timer reporter voices. And the comic really, really bloomed from there. And then sometimes personal habits that the cats have come into the comic. Like my cat Puck loves to watch birds out the window after breakfast. That's like very much his routine. And
Perfect
he also
routine.
likes to do this alone. So if the other cats try to approach him and sit with him, he'll kind of like warn them off, which is funny because Puck is such a gentle, friendly cat, but he really likes that little alone time to recharge. And so that comes into the comic.
I can
Uh,
understand that.
yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
So, what challenges have you faced while transitioning from creating newspaper comics to publishing books and to being online? Because newspapers are a lot are not thriving, but your column
No,
is.
no, it's so it almost kind of came around the backwards, where I had the web comic and I had the audience, and that sort of drove me getting the development deal to make the comic for newspapers, which was wonderful. And I got into newspapers, and I'm hanging in there.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm hanging in the best I can. But with recent newspaper restructurings, a lot of cartoonists have been hit. And very strangely, especially in the Gannett restructurings, they took out almost every woman in America. Just,
really.
yeah, just swept us all out. The Washington Post wrote an article about it recently in, I want to say it was January or February. Folks listening can find that Washington Post article, which went into the fact that somehow, and it seems to be, they weren't really able to get a response from the newspaper companies that did this, but it does seem to be one of those sort of tricky algorithm decisions or something
Oh,
where they don't want to put a person in play of the decision. And they only left Lynn Johnson, for better or worse, in those newspapers, a comic which is in reruns. And um, yeah, and it was really frustrating. I love For Better or Worse. I want to interject with that. That's one of my favorite comics and one of my favorite comics growing up. I loved Lynn Johnson's work. But it was frustrating that so many women came out. It was wild. And when I mentioned it to my own readers, and then it was picked up by the Daily Cartoonist and then picked up by the Washington Post, I thought I was saying the most obvious thing in the world.
right.
Hey, all the women are gone.
What was
um,
their response?
well, anyone who hears it is immediately concerned and wants women put back in these newspapers, but there's been almost no response, no change from the actual newspaper companies themselves. It's really disappointing, and it's been almost 6 months now, more than 6 months.
Is it more than a numbers game, do you think?
I
Is
don't
it
know. I really don't. I thought it was an honest mistake, and I still want to believe that, but when there was nothing done to change it, it feels kind of, if someone can make an honest mistake, but then when it's pointed out, when you kind of double down on it and don't change it, then
Be-
it's no longer a mistake, it's a decision. So,
behavior is?
yeah, yeah, it was
It is.
really disheartening. What was not disheartening is when I told my readers about the situation, because I lost a third of my monthly income when this happened.
That's not
Uh,
good.
no, it was awful and it was scary. I'm a single mom and I pay my bills, and
You have
I'm
cats
very,
to feed too.
yeah, yeah. I'm very, exactly. I have these cats to feed. Um, and I'm very proud of what I do, but I'm not rich. I make a modest salary that keeps the lights on. And so that hit was hard. And when I told my readers and I explained, like, hey, well, I have a Patreon if you want to support me on Patreon, they made up the difference in that monthly income overnight. And I opened up my Patreon that morning, and I say, and I think it's in the Washington Post article, I felt like George Bailey in It's a Wonderful Life at the end.
Oh,
It's like, oh my gosh, it was incredible.
you can never overstate community, and you never know where your community is.
Unbelievable. Yeah, absolutely. Like, the
No,
difference that people make on a small scale is so huge.
it is. It is. It totally is. Given the state of the newspaper industry, what advice would you give an aspiring cartoonist looking to break into the industry?
Well, I would definitely say work on that audience and that connection with your audience. And that can feel a little overwhelming and daunting because you're basically meeting people.
Right.
But I think if you make a comic that you enjoy writing, that you have a lot of fun with, because a lot of times people will try to think like, well, what could be successful? What's going to gain the audience? What's going to get the clicks and the numbers? Don't do that. Work on what you absolutely love, however kind of niche it is, because there are going to be people out there who connect with that and love that. And their word of mouth will be better than any kind of like click you could try to pull in from an algorithm.
You can't buy
Um,
buzz.
so much. And I'm incredibly lucky that I love cats. I feel like I know cats really well and I enjoy cat behavior. But I've pulled things into the comic, like, pop culture references like Lord of the Rings or Mad Max or things like that. And in the beginning, it was always this fear of like, oh, is this strip going to be a little bit too niche, a little bit too weird? But no, those are the ones people really jump onto. And then they share them in places and spaces where there are other fans of those things. And everyone just has a good time. And so I think if someone's trying to break into comics, write what you know, and even more than that, write what you love.
Exactly.
So
Well, I
you
think what you're saying is don't
yeah,
market, create.
don't just create, just have a good time. A good time is infectious.
It sure
And
is. If you see
yeah,
somebody laughing, what are you going to do?
yeah,
Start crying? Oh,
absolutely. Absolutely. And that's going to be the best bet. Something you love. And when you share it and people love it, don't be afraid to thank them. Don't be afraid to interact with readers directly. That was always a big thing when I was first starting, because I speak to the readers, like I'm right in there in the comments.
yeah.
And when I first came to Go Comics, there was even this thing of like, well, you might not want to. They kind of had like a gentle guidelines for creators, and the idea was if you're always in those comments, the trolls might come for you or negativity might find you. And I had a really wonderful community on my original website where we all just kind of talked and shared. And the readers of Breaking Cat News are incredible and really have gotten to know each other. And we sort of pulled that over to Go Comics and invited a lot of the Go Comics readers to join that community. And it was the opposite thought. It almost seemed kind of troll proof,
Huh.
because it was just nice. And we've had trolls come, and some of them have gone away because the readers kind of have their own positivity and not feeding them, and they have figured out a really good way of handling it. And we've won some of the trolls over, and they've become they've become members of the community in really interesting ways that I've seen over the years.
You know what?
Uh,
That's a good strategy. Bring folks in the tent. Because from
I
what I
love
understand,
folks.
most trolls live under bridges.
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
can do an outreach there.
yeah. The kindness that the readers show them seems to make a really sweet difference, and it's nice. And then it's funny when new trolls come, the former trolls can kind of take care of it in a way that is really different. And
I
so
love that.
yeah, yeah, it's been wild to see.
This is KCSM San Mateo. We're with cat cartoonist Georgia Dunn, and she's got that great strip, Breaking Cat News. Georgia, which of your comic books do you feel most proud of and why? I know you love them all.
Oh, I do love them all. That is true. I have, of all the ones that have come out, one called Take It Away, Tommy, which is the third book, has my favorite story I've written in it, which is a Halloween story about a ghost. And it's about a ghost cat being reunited with her former owner. And
Oh,
I love that story. I'm very proud of it. I'm proud of the pacing. It's just that one I feel so good about, and I love to direct people to that particular story.
I'm going to read that for anybody who misses a
It's
kitty cat, right?
Thank you. I think it's very sweet. Like, I'm incredibly proud of that story. And I wrote newspaper articles to go into the story. And so you read newspaper articles. I loved those books when I was a kid where they'd have like little letters in them, and you'd have to open the envelopes and pull the letters out, or
Right.
you'd
Oh,
find
I love those. Yeah.
newspaper scraps. Yeah, I loved those. So I tried to pack this story with that. I painted old photographs. I did a newspaper interview in modern day. I did a newspaper interview which reveals a lot of things from 30 years ago. I had so much fun writing it. So I really like to point folks to that story. And there's a book coming out in September, Good as Goldie. I'm also super excited for, because it's one of the first books that has a really long overarching story that we saw in newspapers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it brings in the stray cat Goldie, who's a real cat in my home, Goldie, who was a stray and did come to us that way. And it's all about her coming, and she's trying to solve a case of where her people went, and she doesn't get along with the cat Lupin, which
Oh,
was also true.
I can
And
imagine.
So that's another one. It's upcoming and it's kind of a convenient, like, hey, I've got a new book out. But also, I'm really excited for this one too. And so these two books, I'm happy with the story I wrote in Take It Away, Tommy, and I'm happy with having a book that's longer and has a whole story going throughout its pages. That was
But
really exciting for me.
you've written 7 books.
Eight. This is going to be
8.
eight. Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
pretty through it.
This is,
But Lupin leaps in, Take It
yeah.
Away, Tommy.
Yeah.
Elvis puffs out.
Elvis flips out.
What's that about? I wanna hear about this. Is it
Yeah,
cat
Elvis
eating
Puffs
too much?
Out. Elvis Puffs Out is a fun one. That was the last one that was all the web strips, and so it wraps up
Oh,
the web strips, and it has a story that the readers called the Golden Mouse Saga,
mm.
which is where an owl who's a villain in the comic, he's one of the only villains. There aren't that many villains. The An owl returns to the barn and has to deal with the old barn cat, and the mice in
Oh,
particular in the comic, who are the little robber mouse gang,
yeah.
and readers like them a lot. They in particular take on this owl. Like they have a deep history with this owl terrorizing them and terrorizing their ancestors, and they've had enough of him. And so they had a leader in their past who's an ancestor of theirs called the Golden Mouse, Agatha, and she came up with a plan if the owl ever came back, and then the generations of mice all spoke it to each other as an oral story.
How does the
So
mouse
that,
sound?
thank you. I'm proud of it, and I wrote it while my grandmother, I wrote it in the month or two that my grandmother, my Nana Didi, was passing away.
Mm.
And I look back now and it's such a story about a grandmother and a granddaughter. And so
Georgia, let me
yeah.
how does you had do you have voices? What does the mouse sound like?
I don't I don't have the voices in my head as much. They're not clear voices, but they are there. There's like little whispers of them, and the mice are definitely like they're very strong little characters for mice. They've become the little heroes who aren't afraid to take anything on. And in
And they're
fact,
aligned with the
today,
cat?
huh?
They're aligned with the cat?
They are. No, no, they're friends with the cats. They are. Which is unusual.
Okay.
But they're a little robber, they're little robber mice. They get into things and they're always taking things in the background in the comic. You always see
Yeah,
them stealing a pen or taking an earring or and so they kind of cover the little crime stories.
I love that.
But then every once in a while they get to show how capable they are. And actually right now, if listeners go to Go Comics, one of the mice, Natasha, is helping a cat, Sophie, who has been missing, and they're trying to get her home.
Okay.
And they just rappelled from the ceiling yesterday on spools of thread.
That's so much fun.
They're fun.
I wanna ask you a historical question.
Okay.
Do you remember TC, cartoon TC?
I don't know. I
Top
don't
Cat.
think Oh, yes, yes, yes. Top Cat. Oh, I
And
love Top.
they had a jazz band. Oh my, and then
Yes,
I
yes,
oh,
yes.
that used to be my favorite. "What's
Oh,
up, Top Cat?
I
TC?"
love Top Cat. Top Cat was one of my imaginary friends when I was a little kid.
I could see that. I love Top
Yeah,
Cat too.
I love Top Cat. He was wonderful.
So maybe Top Cat, some you might reach out to Top Cat.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, oh.
But I still say that. I say, "What's up, TC?" to people, and they say, "What? Don't worry about it. What's up?"
Yeah, yeah. Oh.
Yeah, so Top Cat.
Yeah, oh, I love Top Cat.
So do you ever, go give live readings around,
I
uh
do sometimes. I actually have one coming up September 14th at the Kenmore Library in Kenmore, Washington State. My readings tend to happen in Washington State or Rhode Island, where I'm originally from. And that's just because my kids are still young and traveling is a little bit trickier for me. But I did have a talk last month in California at the Charles Schultz Museum, which was a huge honor for
oh, in
me. I
Santa
was
Rosa.
so, so happy. In Santa Rosa, that's right.
We
It
we
was,
we we had them on a few weeks ago.
yeah, oh, they were wonderful. They were so kind. I brought my two children and my mother, and we were able to have a tour of the offices, and everyone was incredibly warm and wonderful and friendly, and the talk was great, and some readers even traveled for it. It was a really positive experience. It was wonderful.
It's wonderful. And, on the serious side, I mean, we all love cats, but cats provide a lot of services. They keep the critters down in the
Yeah,
backyard,
absolutely. Yeah.
and they're just great company, I think.
Yeah, they're wonderful. They're wonderful, wonderful pets, and you can't beat them for critter control. It's
Oh no, you really
oh
can't.
my gosh.
Are you? I was reading this British paper, and they say 30-pound cat eats parrot. Now kid
Oh
was a
god.
cracker.
Oh no. Oh no.
I couldn't take it. I said, "This is."
Oh yeah. I saw one of my cats took down a squirrel when I was a kid, and the squirrel was in the house.
Oh.
Oh, the squirrel. So there was a weird sound coming from the wood stove. It was summer, so the wood stove wasn't going. And my cat Ivana, I was a teenager. My cat Ivana crept up to this wood stove and waited. And we weren't certain what was happening. We were kind of like, what, Ivana, what do you see? But we could hear this like, real metallic tapping. And then the little door opened and the squirrel popped its head out. And oh, I like squirrels, so it was very traumatic. But Ivana took care of it. Ivana was not having anything come into the house.
Oh no.
And she was that kind of cat. She used to
My
growl like a German shepherd.
my cat would too. If people come over to
Yeah.
visit, she'd get on top of him and growl and look at him.
Yeah. Yeah. It was heavy.
I loved it. No.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, thank you so much. This has just been an inspiring talk, and it's just been so cheerful and delightful.
Oh, thank
Uh,
you.
I really appreciate you, Georgia Dunn, and your
Yeah.
breaking new cat news. This is KCSM San Mateo. Thank you so much for coming and visiting us,
Oh, anytime. This was wonderful.
and keep us updated on where you're giving talks and whatnot,
I will. I will.
and we appreciate you joining us at KCSM San Mateo. That was cartoonist Georgia Dunn. Coming up next is Arif Khatib, founder of the Multi Ethnic Sports Hall of Fame, putting on their annual Community Award ceremony. This is KCSM's Places and Spaces where community and culture coalesce. Good morning. I'm Leslie Stovall. Would you join me in welcoming Arif Khatib? He is the founder of the Multi Ethnic Sports Hall of Fame. And hi, Arif.
Hi, how are you today?
I am excellent, and I'm better because you're with us. You have done so. Your achievements are so incredible. I mean,
Oh,
you don't just talk; you do.
thank you.
And I've known you for a long time,
True.
and you're looking great.
And that's where I feel. So I think it's appropriate to look like you feel.
Absolutely. Now, you established the Multi-Ethnic Sports Hall of Fame in 2000. Can you talk about your achievements and what you're trying to do?
Oh my God, I was in the music business for 26 years and I wanted to transition into something else. And I didn't know what it was going to be. So I went away to be with the spirit to find out what it was going to be. And it ended up being the filling the void, as I called it at that time. And since then, it's just been an incredible, beautiful ride. I've had the opportunity to travel all over the world and induct athletes, and we have over 300 and at least 305, 310 athletes in our Hall of Fame. And Leslie, I think when I established this, one of the components that has been the most pleasing to me over the years, along with the induction of these incredible unheralded athletes, was the fact that I included a component of honoring people from the community, non-athletes, maybe athletes, but it didn't have to be athletes, and that set us apart from the other traditional halls of fame in place of four of them down with the fifth. We were also a nonprofit, so that made us different in another way. None of the other halls of fame were honoring people from the community, and I thought that was a gross omission because they help keep our community whole. So I added that, and I'm really proud of that.
Well, yours is a community award ceremony.
Yeah, well, yeah, I like to do those kinds of things. People tend to forget those who not in the limelight. We get carried away with athletes and all this other good stuff, but we forget about our community. These people are hard workers, and they don't many times don't go unrecognized. Yet they stick to have the stick to itness and continue to do it. And I've done a little over 200 now of community people in the last 22 years. This
Oh,
organization,
goodness. I had no idea.
yeah, there
Well,
may be.
you say these individuals have taken a courageous stand against injustice in Alameda County, and you say justice when you want it, power when you need it. The Multi Ethnic Sports Hall of Fame is proud to announce its annual community award ceremony.
Yeah,
So
yeah. We haven't had one since the COVID,
oh,
since the
okay.
pandemic. But before the pandemic, this is a yearly deal. Every year, generally in the summertime, and I do them all. Like I say, I do them all over the country. I've done like 6 in New York and 6 in Little Rock, 5 in Seattle, 2 in Kenya, 2 in and Ethiopia, 2 in the Palm Springs, and 3 in Los Angeles, the 2 in St. Thomas, and 4 in Puerto Rico, all over the place.
You are a hardworking man, Arif.
I
That's amazing.
don't call it work. I
Well,
don't call it work.
you you inspire a whole lot of people globally and locally. So I must say that. So
I've been told that, and it's been given to me in various awards. So that's true. But that's not why I do what I do. I do what I do because it's the right thing to do.
absolutely, and we support you in that. The awards luncheon is Saturday, August 3rd at Scott's Seafood Pavilion, number 2, and that's in Oakland. That's over by the Jack London Square.
Yeah, it's in Jack Square.
And it's from 11 to 2, and tickets are available now at Multi Ethnic Sports Hall of
Because
Fame.com.
HOF, be sure it's HOF because someone has an unauthorized site up there called Multi Ethnic Sports Hall of Fame. That's not mine.
Oh no,
It's
yeah, this is
Multi Ethnic Sports HOF.com.
oh okay, oh okay, got it. I have it right here. And the tables are available too, and proceeds benefit Meshof's overall after school youth intervention and mental health initiatives. And there will be a great demand for tickets, and early purchase is highly recommended.
Yeah, That is true. They're coming in really well.
Arif, what inspired you to take a courageous stand against injustice?
I think, as I indicated, when I went away for this sabbatical to decide what I want to do next after music, uh, I just found that void that we had all these incredible athletes of color who were gone unrecognized. Many of them had been forgotten. And I just felt it was time that they be applauded and honored because many of them took courageous stance, all of them back in the day, because they faced systemic racism. Of the worst kind, and I've been able to meet the ones that were alive and become their friends. I never thought back in the day that would ever happen. These were my heroes, and I become their friend, all because they would have the emotional remarks and say, "I thought people had forgotten about me. Thank you." So that has been my motivation. It's been the juice that keeps me going because there's still a lot of them out there that I haven't been able to get to yet. And as long as I'm alive, I'm going to continue to reach out to them, thank them as long as they're alive. Because I did a documentary, Leslie, and 6 of the people died before they could see the film.
Oh no.
So 18 subjects and 6 are gone. And so we just need to do what we need to do for these, we call them unheralded athletes of color who made major contributions to the Olympics and to American society in general. And I'm so happy every time I do one of these things. It pleases me more, as much or more than it does them.
KCSM, San Mateo. Arif, did you get a chance to meet and know Willie Mays, the late Willie Mays?
I did, yes. I'm on more than one occasion, as a matter of fact.
Can you share a story about Mr. Mays?
He was a quiet guy. Uh, I'm constantly reminded of what he had to go through when the Giants moved from New York to San Francisco. I was a baseball fan at that time. I watched him the first time he came to bat in New York in 1951. And then when they moved to the Bay Area, it was shouting time for me because now we not only had Major League Baseball, but we had Willie Mays.
Mm.
And I'm also fortunate once again to have been able to attend the very first game in San Francisco, compliments of San Francisco Parks and Recreation, because I'm one of the 2 people who named the park.
You did?
Yep, they had a contest out to name the park. And can you imagine a young man who had a little knowledge of San Francisco and even history at that time, being one of the co-winners of the contest? I did some research and found out that there was a part of they called Candlestick Point. And I was looking for free tickets. I just put Candlestick Point, and it ended up being Candlestick Park. So they gave me 4 tickets to the very first game on April 15th, 1960. I can see it and remember it like it was yesterday. And here's the really strange part about it, if you want to call it strange. The pitcher and the catcher that day became my lifelong friends until they died, and both of them are in my Hall of Fame.
No, who are they?
Oh God, don't ask me that one. One of them was it. I wasn't ready for that. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. But
As a super senior here now, I don't have a good memory for all those things. But one is from Puerto Rico, another from St. Thomas. And he won that day. I think he beat the Dodgers 8-0, and that hooked me on local baseball. After that, I just got to know as much as about them and about the players and the game as I could. And I got to know a lot of those players. It really paid off when I went into this Hall of Fame because I had contacts already, and to some extent, friendships. Warren Marichal, whom I spoke with a couple of days ago, he was here for the Willie Mays celebration. I didn't see him then, but I talked to him over the phone later. Orlando Cepeda,
Hmm.
a really good friend, and ironically today popped up on my screen was a FaceTime from Orlando Cepeda. So that we got a little bit off there when we talk about Willie Mays. He was
Oh
a
no,
quiet guy, and he come out here and he couldn't find a place to live because he was black.
because didn't he try to live in Pacific Heights and they wouldn't allow it?
He started out, he tried to find a place somewhere else. I forget where it was now, but he wanted to find out a place, and they said, "No, you can't live here." And so he didn't create a big ruckus because that's not who he was.
Right.
He was a very quiet kind of person, where some other athletes may have, you know, they would if that was today, they'd have a real problem. Not just because it's illegal, but they'll have a problem with attitude. He didn't have an attitude for that. So okay, went on, and then folks saw that, and they put their arms around him and made sure that he had a place to stay because early on he did not have a place to live when he got here.
Well, he did his talking with his bat and his defense.
Yeah, and he just helped a lot of people. I mean, he helped him in a way. I went to they named the park after him over in Richmond at the baseball park over at Hickes Park, and I went to I was used to be in that park when I was a young man and living in Richmond, and I went to that park, and we were all saddened that he could not make it there that day for the celebration and the naming of the park. But his son Michael came in his behalf, and I got to know Michael. I didn't know Michael before, so the Willie Mays was just a remarkable, down to earth human being born in the South with Southern traditions of being quiet and getting along. He did that best or better than anyone I know for a person who reached the status that he did in the stature. He never changed. Never changed.
I had the opportunity to meet him at the All-Star game in San Francisco a few years ago. And I just was walking and I looked, I said, oh my gosh, that's Willie Mays. Should I go say hello? I didn't know what to do, right? So I stopped and I said, Mr. Mays, blah, blah, blah. And he was so nice. But what I noticed is he was just, his wrists were so solid. I mean, he was solid. And I said,
In
well,
every way.
I mean, he was an ultimate athlete.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I was doing that catch they show on TV all the time. I watched it on television in 1954. Vic Wirtz hit that ball, and Willie Mays caught it in the World Series. I'm
And
watching the Cleveland Indians. Because I was really following those guys that didn't know that one of these days I would become a historian on that. And with Larry Doby with the Cleveland Indians, I Pumpster Green, who was the first to play for the Boston Red Sox, very, very good friend of mine. We went to high school together. And so there's a lot of history in there that I didn't recognize until I got involved with establishing this Hall of Fame. After that, I realized the importance of that history and the courageous stand that each of them took. And then it made it easier for me, and I believe, to move this Hall of Fame that I have because I not only had the passion, but I knew a lot of these folks. And it made it much easier for me. Same thing with the film. Every person in that film, except the one who did the 1800s, I knew who they were and we were friends, and I did all the interviews myself.
well, we're very grateful that you're keeping this historical account of all the sports Hall of Fame people, multi-ethnic Hall of Fame, because people forget.
Yeah, yeah, quickly.
Hmm. So back to your event, the awards luncheon. You
Yeah,
are honoring District Attorney of the Year, the Honorable Pamela Price.
yeah,
She's in Alameda and she's getting some heat, I think.
yeah. She's the first, obviously the first, not obviously, but she's the first African American to sit in that seat, and I obviously was the first African American woman to sit in that seat. But she was more than that. And we search out people for their contributions to society, to civil rights, and to the community. And she stands above. She stands right there above all of them. This woman came from foster care, lived in 16 different homes, went on to Yale University, came back and went to Cal, got a degree, became a lawyer, started fighting in civil rights, fought 2 cases before the Supreme Court. All those things that tended to be overlooked by the average person, but not by me, and not by many of others. And so she is certainly worthy of this award. And should have had many, many more like it before me, but I don't wait for that. It's my turn to take care of her. She will be taken care of.
Well, anytime you get higher education and go to law school, you are achieving and you are working hard, no matter how you feel about things. I believe this is
Well, coming
KCSM
from the
in
humble
Mateo.
beginnings like she had, how many people can say that coming from foster care to where she is right now? To become
Absolutely.
100 years, there had never been an election in Alameda County. They've all been appointed. I know we call them anointed. But for 100 years, she's the very first in 2022 to take that seat being elected and had to be Black.
So, Arif, what do you what do you believe sets the Honorable Pamela Price apart as a dynamic Black woman in her legal field?
Say that again.
What do you think sets the Honorable Pamela Price apart as a dynamic Black woman in the legal field?
I would say, as I've mentioned early on, her humble beginnings, her tenacity to do well, her her dedication and passion for civil rights, and for her to move all the way from that point to becoming the first elected person in 100 years for a county like Alameda County, I believe is significant, maybe even beyond that significance. And people just need to know. If they don't know, you don't know. As they say, you don't know what you don't know. So I think it's important that people know who she is and her contributions to the legal profession and to civil rights.
And you're also honoring Civil Rights Justice Award, giving that to John Burris.
Yes, John Burris. I've honored, but I gave Burris another award about 10, 12 years ago. It's his turn again because he is truly a pioneer in fighting for civil rights, and particularly against police brutality and a number of other issues over there involved with the police. John has come a long way, and he has taught and been a mentor for many of the current Black attorneys who are fighting police brutality. John was there. He was an analyst during the O.J. Simpson trial. They seeked him out for his contributions and knowledge about police brutality potential. He's just done so many things, and he never stops. He's all the same. He's gracious, but he's also very tenacious. And
Yes,
I like that.
I do too. You're also honoring Outstanding Administrator and Policy Award to Tara Anderson.
Tara is she's done some great work in policymaking, San Francisco, and she's now over here in Alameda County doing that. And Tara is from the East Coast. She's a hard worker who believes in fairness and who believes in civil rights, believe it or not. Not believe it or not, but she does. And so she was an easy choice for me. And Tara she's just a wonderful human being who cares a lot about people and making certain that things are done in the right way. And the other two people on that bill are certainly more than worthy. Otis Bruce, who just about 2 weeks ago was installed as the first African American president of the Rotary Club in Marin County. He's from Mississippi and 32 years in the legal profession in Marin County, assistant DA over there. He came over here and became assistant district attorney with Pamela to help her get her office up and running. And now he moved back to Marin County, but he's been a strong proponent of youth, big leadership in that regard, and that's where my background is and my heart is. We call him a community prosecutor and youth leader. The other person that I simply can't overlook is Dr. Romas Japra. And as indicated early on, as the cultural ambassador for the Indian American Hindu community, I was appointed to that position, and I had an opportunity to work alongside Dr. Romas Japra. I watched this man do things that you could not believe. I mean, he's a cardiologist. He runs his office, and until midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, he's doing things for the community. He's established 4 or 5 worthwhile organizations. He established a parade out there that goes over 50 to 75,000 people every year. The next one's August the 18th. He's just been a phenomenal giver to his community. He's helped a lot of politicians out there with fundraisers at his mansion. I'm just happy to call him my friend. And by the way, this is his second time of me honoring him. And John is my second time around, because these guys never stop, and it just gets better. And I want to let them know that I didn't forget what you're doing. I see what you're doing, and I want to thank you for that. And those who attend the event, they get an opportunity to thank you and see who you are and what you do.
And let's talk about the keynote speaker.
Yeah,
KCSM.
Dr. Tayun Kim. Dr. Tayun Kim's about a 25-year friend of mine. I met her at a political fundraiser in San Jose for a congressman, and I just found her to be so unusual in so many ways. Her history and her background is hard to explain. She came from South Korea. She was there at 5 years old when in the Korean War. She was left to die by her family. She survived and came to California as a teenager, came to America. She went to New York first. She scrubbed floors in hotels. She went from door to door trying to get people to let her teach them about martial arts. She had some degree of success at that, but not a lot. And then she moved to the Silicon Valley and started a computer company and started her martial arts company. She introduced Taekwondo and became the first and only female grand master in the business.
It's quite impressive.
When she goes, she's in my Hall of Fame. When she goes back to South Korea, she gets a police escort. She's now a multimillionaire. She's come a long ways, but she never, ever stopped giving. She gives over $200,000 a year to the veterans because she said they saved her life when the United States came into Korea. She never forgot. She has an incredible and compelling story and she knows how to deliver it, by the way, that those who will be fortunate enough to be there that day, you won't be the same when she finishes.
Well, I look forward to hearing her story. I do. Arif, I want to thank you for stopping by. And then once again, I want to say, tell everybody the awards luncheon is on Saturday, August 3rd at Scott's Seafood Pavilion, number 2 Broadway.
And they can phone, let me give you a phone number too.
Okay.
They can call 510-629-2895 for more information.
And we look forward, and I'm going to be your MC.
Don't want to forget that. You are the MC, you're the chosen one.
And
And,
thank you
and I
so much.
and thank you first of all for being my friend for all these years and for accepting this, because you too will be changed the day you leave there, Leslie. You've never seen or done anything like that.
I'm looking for that because we all need some inspiration right about now.
You have it.
Okay. Thank you, Arif. Love you. See you on Saturday, August 3rd. KCSM, San Mateo. That was Arif Khatib from the Multi-Ethnic Sports Hall of Fame, and that does it for Places and Spaces. Oh, Giddy at the door. Gotta go. See you next week.
Say, hey, Willie, go get it. What do you mean, go get it? Man, that ball's way in left field.
I don't care what field it's in. Willie plays all field.
Every time we come to the game, you talking about Willie plays all the field.
That's right, he plays.
Let's call Willie and ask him. Call him.
Okay, hey, Willie.
Yes.
Are you Willie Mays?
Yes.
Whose ball was that?
Why was it?
In left field.
Well, that's Irvin's ball.
I told you that. Every time we come to the game, we got to talk about it. The next time I'm going to sit in the grandstand.
Hey, fellas, what's your name?
Say who?
Say Willie. Say hey.
Say who?
Swinging at the plate. Say hey.
Say who?
Say Willie. That giant kid is great. When he hits the ball, it's long gone man. Hits it farther than Campy can. Swings the bats like a little lead pipe. When they reach the ball, it's overripe. Say hey.
Say who?
Say Willie. Say hey.
Say who?
Swinging at the plate. Say hey.
Say who?
Say Willie. That giant kid is great. He runs the bases like a choo-choo train. Swings around second like an aeroplane. His cap flies off when he passes third, and he heads home like an eagle bird. Say hey.
Say who?
Say Willie. Say hey.
Say who?
Swinging at the plate. Say hey.
Say who?
Say Willie. That giant kid is great. Yes, he covers center like he had jet shoes. The other batters get the Willie blues. Anything hit his way is out. Man, it just don't pay those guys to clout. Say hey.
Say who?
Say Willie. Say hey.
Say who?
Swinging at the plate. Say hey.
Say who?
Say Willie. That giant kid is great. Willie served his Uncle Sam. He left the Giants in an awful jam. But now he's back, and he's Leo's joy. And Willie's still a growing boy. Say hey.
Say who?
Say Willie. Say hey.
Say who?
Swinging at the plate. Say hey.
Say who?
Say Willie. That giant kid is great. That giant kid is great. Say Willie. What you gonna say?
Say hey.
Places and spaces I've been. All the places and spaces I've been. All the places and spaces I've been. All the places and spaces I've been.
Places and Spaces, produced here at KCSM FM, located at the College of San Mateo. Executive producer and host is Leslie Stovall. Producer and audio engineer is Rudy Evenhouse.
Thank you for tuning in to Places and Spaces.